11 o'clock, Wednesday, June 5th, 2024. We're here to review the Elk Creek Bridge temporary easement extension and the Big Creek ramp access amendment. And I'm going to turn that over to the prosecutor since you did the drafting. Sure. And tell us what we're looking at.
You bet. So I'll start first with the Elk Creek Bridge easement. Our Public Works Department had reached out to me and indicated that based upon information they've received from their consultant that they are not likely to meet the originally anticipated timeframes for completion of the project. Originally it was contemplated the project would be completed by this fall. They've pushed that deadline out, and so they would be looking at doing work on the project beyond the time frame that was originally contemplated in the easement agreement that was executed this last year. As such, an extension on the time frame was needed, and as part of that extension, one of the concerns from the landowner was still ensuring that the unlawful or illegal access that was currently in place immediately adjacent to the bridge would be closed by the county, which was contemplated under the original agreement anyways. But if the county wasn't anticipated to start construction in that area right away, they would like to see the closure of the unlawful access effectuated immediately or as soon as practical. I went back and forth with Mr. Buell's attorney. We ultimately settled on the proposed amendment and addendum to the temporary easement and property use agreement that is in front of the board now. And really there are only two significant changes to it. First, we've identified in Clause 1 an amendment to extend the time frame for completion. And then secondarily, we added a new Clause 9, which essentially gives some flexibility to the county on the install of the Jersey barriers that are contemplated to deter or discourage use of the creek bed for vehicular and or off-road travel. But at the same time, it does obligate the county to get those Jersey barriers in place as soon as it can. Any questions on the bridge right-of-way?
I'll ask Public Works. Do you have any comment on what's here?
No, our department is completely agreeable with these changes, and we're just thankful that we were able to enter into this temporary easement with the property owner.
Okay. All right. And we have two folks with us today representing Mr. Buell's interest in this. Do you have any comments or questions?
No, we've consulted with our legal this morning. Okay. We're fine with it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for working through it.
Okay. All right. That works for your department?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Do we want to handle these separately? You want to do
I think you can go ahead and take a vote on it now if you want.
Yeah. So, Jeff, do you have any questions or comments?
No.
Okay. Then I would, I'll motion that we accept this amended addendum, this temporary easement and property use agreement as amended.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So that is taken care of. And now to the second item of business, Mr. Prosecutor.
So the second item deals with the Herrick Park access. I know the BOCC is well aware of the backstory here. There have been a number of meetings that have been held by which the county vetted out both current use and interest as well as future use and interest in the area, and settled on a license agreement with the landowner in that area, Mr. Buell, for really reassurance that the county would be able to continue using an access ramp immediately adjacent to Potlatch Road in order to draw water primarily out of Big Creek for public purposes. The agreement that was settled on contemplated that there would be the installation of a 20-foot gate across that access ramp such that the county or other public entities could continue using that ramp when it needed, while still deterring vehicular travel by the public down into the creek bed area. Upon further inspection, Public Works informed our office that a review of that area by their supervisor down in that district, as well as consultants for Mr. Buell, a 20-foot width on a gate in that location would not be practical. In light of that, that led to some renegotiation of the license agreement. I received direction from our Public Works Department on what their interest was and what they were hoping to accomplish there. I know our Public Works Director solicited input from the supervisor she has down in that district, which is a different supervisor than was in place when the original conversations regarding this license first began years ago. And in discussing it with Public Works, it's identified that access by the county for drawing water may not be as frequent as originally contemplated. In other words, the concept of having a gate in that area originally was designed to allow for regular access. However, we don't know just how regular the access is going to be and if and when that access is going to be needed. However, Public Works does still desire to maintain the ability to access that area. So we've agreed to shift the language within the agreement to provide more flexibility to the parties to figure out what width or size of gate may be appropriate in that area, as well as the exact location of it, while also giving kind of a bifurcated approach where if the county in the future determines that that particular ramp may not be needed, the landowner has offered an alternative access route, so a license to use the opposite side of the creek and maintain a right-of-way for the county by which it can still draw water and get down to Big Creek without needing the access ramp. Those conversations led to the amended license agreement that the board has in front of it, wherein you're going to see there are two options under Section 1. There's now a 1.1 and a 1.2. That gives the county the ability or the flexibility to identify which of those access routes is more appropriate. Also, you'll note under Section 2 there is a 2.1 and a 2.2, which once again provides flexibility to the county in identifying what mechanism of access is going to best suit the county's needs. While we were undertaking the process of making some minor revisions, I took the liberty to also draft in some revised language into these sections that I think more clearly reflects the county's interest. So there's some minor grammatical and structural modifications that have been made to these sections that wouldn't have been evident in the original agreement. Otherwise, the amended license agreement, I think, is designed to account for Public Works' concerns for public access, while also keeping in mind the concerns that were raised by the general public during the course of various public meetings that were held, and also accounting for the desire of Mr. Buell to ensure that unlawful trespassing in the area is dissuaded.
Okay. Public Works, comments, thoughts?
So we are agreeable to the additions to this and the choices. During the original agreement, when it was drafted up, the option of utilizing the other property was not on the table at that time. Our main concerns for our department obviously is the safety, of our workers and our equipment. The grade is somewhat steep going down that ramp, and turning around can get a little bit dicey, even utilizing the extra room going on to the adjacent property. The other thing that is a priority to our department are the costs. And so the way that this amended agreement reads, if we were to select the second option and utilize the eastern draw point off of the other property, which would now be available to us, the need for the gate would not be necessary. The need for the county to purchase the signage would not be necessary. The need for the continued anticipated maintenance on the gate and the signage would not be necessary. So for us, what we are looking at are the safety factors, the ease of the drawing point, and the costs. So me personally, right now at this point, I would recommend leaning towards option 1.2 from our department's standpoints. And I did bring some photos that Brad took in case you would like to see some photos of the site so you can see logistically what we're looking at. This first photo is of Brad's pickup on the ramp, so you can see the width where it currently lies to get down there. This one shows that it is steeper to go down. This is a rock formation here, so it restricts the width a little bit. This is another one just kind of showing what a normal sized pickup would look like on that ramp. This is one at the bottom of the ramp. This is the property marker here. And so you can see what the terrain looks like down there.
Well, here, this one kind of shows also, here's the stake. So it's the same view, but this is all we have for turning around is right here. So they would be backing down that ramp to fill up the water truck, because if they weren't backing it down, we would be going onto Jack Buell's property there. So the amount of turnaround is not there.
This one again shows the steepness of the grade, and then this is just from another angle. And these are photos of the other side, the alternative property, which is right across the creek there. It shows where it is flat, so it would be easier to turn around there. That's the view of the bottom of the bridge there. So it is flat. You could go right to the water to draw. Another view here, and then this just shows that pretty much the whole property is flatter. And one of Brad's concerns with the water truck, getting it down into that location is doable, but once you are full of water and you have that extra weight.
The nose of your truck's facing out towards the river, because we draft off the driver's side of the truck. By the time you put 5,000 gallons of water on your water truck, you got to make a 15-point turn in that rocky, sandy soil to get turned around to shoot back at the ramp and then come up out of the ramp.
Okay.
I think we're just kind of asking for drive line, U-joints, maybe rear end. It's not solid surface.
Okay.
Where we can go in on the other side, it's flat as a tabletop. You can drive right in. There's a ramp in and a ramp out. You just make a circle. And it's drawn right off the driver's side back up the creek. It just makes a lot more sense to me than fighting that other side.
I think in discussing with Public Works, one of the things we were trying to balance is reflecting back to the public meetings that were had and some of the interests that were trying to be balanced. Mm-hmm. Obviously, this information is valuable because Brad is obviously the person in charge down there. So that's perhaps new information that the BOCC didn't have at its disposal. But certainly the county now has at least two options. Mm-hmm. So you've got two different facets you can approach this with. Technically, the decision on which option you want to utilize isn't necessitated at the time of signing. You maintain either of those options. However, if the point in time comes where you choose to exercise option 2, which is to take the license on the eastern side where the ground is flat, the agreement from the landowner's perspective is going to require the county to go ahead and remove that ramp so that it wouldn't be an access point anymore. So.
Okay. Do we have any comments from Mr. Buell's representatives today?
Well, we appreciate you allowing us to speak on that behalf. We would be in support of option 2 as well. That's why I think you'll see in the language there, Mr. Beal's offering up a piece of equipment and also access on the other side of Parrot Park, Lot 1, which he's owned since the plat was originally been platted. So we want to still be neighborly and work through that. So,
Mr. Chairman, I would just say this, that initially, 2 to 3 years ago, when this issue came up and the ramp was built, it hasn't been there more than 3 years. It was built by Brad's predecessor without input from the commissioners or Public Works, Jim Cason. They just did it. When that happened, that allowed from the west side of Mr. Beal's property an enormous influx of chronic trespassing. And I could give you all kinds of examples of what that looks like after a weekend of camping and so on and so forth. It allows side-by-sides and quads and even pickups. I've even caught a pickup in the creek that come down off of the public right-of-way into the Mr. Beal's property and the ramp. So the intent here was for us to get this back in the hands of the decision makers, and that's Brad and Jessica. Whatever they decide, we want to defer to them. We trust their judgment. But as Ben mentioned earlier, the main thrust here is that if you bring your water truck in from the east side, it'll be much safer. If we gate the road or we do away with the road on the west side, it will move to obviate chronic trespass on Mr. Beal's property. And we so far have not asked law enforcement to start citing those people. We have done that out of deference to Mr. Allen. He would, I can guarantee you, have a lot of cases that he would have to deal with, and I don't mean to be melodramatic about that, but it's chronic, it's serious. Last week I went down there and there was 3 jet boats, 4 pickups, and 3 boat trailers on Mr. Beal's property. So this agreement would help us obviate the chronic trespass, and that's the intent here. Ben, have I maybe
That's fair.
said that reasonably?
That's
is that
fair.
plausible? So that would just be our input. Trespassing is the issue.
Okay. Brad, anything?
No, I just feel we're probably leading to the other side of the creek. It works way better all the way around. Like I said, Buell, they offered up a piece of machinery, a big hoe. 30 minutes, the road will be back to natural slope and problem solved.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the work, Mr. Prosecutor, in coming up with this with the 2 options. Are you ready to move on this?
Yes.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to approve this amended license agreement.
Okay, I'll second it.
Or you,
I'll, so moved.
so moved. Okay. I like to keep
Yeah.
you
me
on your
thinking.
toes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I will second that.
Mr. Chair, comment for discussion purposes, now that you've got a motion on the table, if I may. Just as an additional point of clarification, in the agreement, section 2.2 gives the authority for determining whether or not to utilize that eastern alternate route to your public works director. It may be wise to reserve the ability as a BOCC to have your public works director get you guys to make the formal authorization if and when you decide to go that direction of actually choosing option 2 under the agreement, just so that there is clarity that that decision is one that's really coming from the top down from the BOCC. Because once you go option 2, it'll be permanent. We'll be removing that ramp. So I think you guys might want to envision how that might look, especially in light of all the public comment that you received in the beginning. So
Yeah. So that'd be understood that we'd make that
Yes.
decision as a board with you.
Yes.
Okay? Good point, Mr. Prosecutor. All right, we have a motion before us in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We've adopted this amended license agreement. Again, thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. I know you've had to go back and forth a lot to get this done. Appreciate your time. Thank you, Public Works, for your participation in getting it here. And thank you, gentlemen, for being here today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brad. All right. If I thanked everybody, thank you, ladies, for keeping track of what we're doing here. All right. With that, we are adjourned.